Assalamu alaikum. Today we're gonna start a new surah, which is Surah Zalzalah, meaning chapter of the quake. So let's start. Ala barakatillahi ta'ala. The first three verses of the surah are, after Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها, meaning when the earth is made to quake with its earthquake, and the earth brings out its heavy burdens, and man says, what is it with it?
إذا
Is a conditional particle, means when. The verb following the particle is typically in the past tense, regardless of whether a past tense, present, or future time is intended. Also,
إذا
is typically followed by a verbal sentence with a normal verb order, that is, verb plus subject. The condition expressed by
إذا
is generally one which is likely or expected, the only doubt being the time of the event.
زلزلت
Is the verb,
زلزلة
meaning to shake or to quake. In the past passive, in the third singular feminine person. Now this verb is a quadrilateral verb, belongs to the basic strong form of verbs, which all its radicals are strong or sound,
الأرض
meaning the earth.
زلزالها
Is the word,
زلزال
that is, an earthquake, is a verbal noun from the verb,
زلزلة
and the possessive pronoun
ها
refers to,
الأرض الزلزلة
means to shake violently over and over again. Thus,
زلزلت الأرض
means that the earth will be shaken violently by convulsion after convulsion. And since shaking of the earth has been mentioned, it automatically gives the meaning that the entire earth will be shaken and not a limited territory of it. Then, in order to express the great intensity of the earthquake, the word
زلزالها
has been added, which literally means it's being shaken.
أخرجت
Is the verb,
أخرج
meaning to bring out, to bring forth, or throw up in the past tense, in the third singular feminine person. Now this verb belongs to the form fourth of verbs, which follows this pattern.
أثقالها
Is its heavy burdens,
أثقال
is the broken plural of
ثقل
a heavy burden, and the possessive pronoun
ها
refers to.
الأرض
Now this verse has two meanings. One, it will cast out bodies of the dead in whatever form and state, and wherever they may be lying in the earth. And two, it will cast out the treasures of gold, silver, jewels, and every kind of wealth lying hidden in the earth's belly, and man will see it and realize how he thirsted for these things in the world, how he committed murders, thefts, robberies, and piracies in the land and sea, usurped the rights of others, waged wars, and devastated vast populations.
قال
Is the verb, meaning to say, in the past tense, in the third singular masculine person. Now this verb belongs to the basic form of verbs, and it is a hollow verb, which has a weak middle radical between two strong radicals,
الإنسان
meaning the man
ما
is an interrogative pronoun that asks a question about a thing.
لها
Is a prepositional phrase, means to it,
لا
to or for. The inseparable preposition introduces the indirect object of a verb, indicating the person or thing towards which the action of the verb is directed. Man here may as well imply every man, for after resurrection and coming to senses, the first impression of every man will be as to what was happening around him. Afterwards, he will realize that it was the day of resurrection. Man may also imply the man who denies the hereafter, for what he regarded as impossible would be happening in front of him and causing him confusion and bewilderment. As for the believers, they will not be bewildered and confused, for everything would be taking place according to their belief and conviction. Now, the declension of these verses are: the conditional particle
إذا
is a governing term in idhafa construction,
زلزلت
is a verb in the past passive. We call a phrase that has a verb in the present or the past passive by a phrase with a passive voice action. The subjects of passive verbs undergo the action. The passive voice is used when the agent of the action is unknown or not known for certain. When it is not wanted to mention the agent, or in order to emphasize the person or thing that undergoes the action rather than the one who performs it,
الأرض
is what we call the substitute for the subject.
زلزالها
Is an absolute object. An absolute object is a verb's object that is etymologically related to the verb and serves as an adverbial modification, typically describing how the action of the verb is performed. This may add little or no extra meaning except to emphasize the action of the verb. And the verbal sentence is a genitive term in the idhafa construction,
أخرجت
is a verb in the past tense,
الأرض
is its subject,
أثقالها
is its object,
قال
is a verb in the past tense,
الإنسان
its subject. The interrogative pronoun
ما
is the subject of a nominal sentence,
لها
is a prepositional phrase. Now the next two verses are يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها, meaning on that day it tells its tales because your Lord has revealed to it.
إذن
The genitive of the obsolete noun
إذ
is added to certain nouns with a temporal meaning in the adverbial accusative. These nouns include
حين
time,
يوم
day,
ساعة
hour,
وقت
time, and
آن
time, and give the following compounds:
حينئذ
at that time or then,
ساعتئذ
at that time or in that hour,
وقتئذ
at that time or then,
آنئذ
at that time, that day or then, and
يومئذ
as in the verse means at that time, on that day, or then. What is meant by
يومئذ
is that day when the earth will be shaking.
تحدث
Is the verb
حدث
to tell or to report in the present tense in the third singular feminine person. Now this verb belongs to the form second of verbs, which follows this pattern.
أخبارها
Is its tales, its news, its tidings, or /and its reports. It might have been difficult for a man of ancient times to understand how the earth will speak and narrate the annals and events happening on it on the resurrection day. But in the present age of scientific discoveries and the inventions of cinema, loudspeaker, radio, television, tape recorder, electronic equipment, etc., it is no longer difficult to understand how the earth will narrate its annals.
ب
Is an inseparable preposition being attached directly onto the word it governs. It can mean at, in, by, with, on, or because, as in this verse, and it introduces the reason for the previous action and its cause.
أن
That is a conjunctional particle, introduces a noun clause, which states a fact that an event has happened, is actually happening, or will certainly happen.
أن
Cannot be immediately followed by a verb, but is usually followed by a noun in the accusative case. A pronoun, personal demonstrative or relative, or a pronoun suffix, which functions as the subject of the sentence,
ربك
meaning your Lord,
أوحى
is the verb, meaning to reveal or to inspire, in the past tense in the third singular masculine person. Now this verb belongs to the form fourth of verbs, which follows this pattern. It is apparent that the implied meaning here is that Allah Ta'ala will permit it, the earth, to tell its tales. Now the declension of these verses are: the adverbial of time
يومئذ
is an idhafa construction itself, and it is in apposition with
إذا تحدث
is a verb in the past tense with a hidden subject,
أخبارها
is its object, and the verbal sentence is the main clause, which contains the expected consequence of the condition if fulfilled.
ب
Is a preposition,
أن
is a conjunctional particle,
ربك
is its subject,
أوحى
is a verb in the past tense with a hidden subject,
لها
is a prepositional phrase, and the verbal sentence is the predicate of,
أن
and the nominal sentence of
أن
is consisting a prepositional phrase. The next verse is يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم, meaning on that day mankind emerges in droves to be shown their deeds.
يصدر
Is the verb,
صدر
meaning to emerge, to go forth, or to come forth, in the present tense in the third singular masculine person. Now this verb belongs to the basic form of verbs, which all its radicals are strong or sound, meaning there is no weak letter between them.
الناس
Meaning the mankind,
أشتات
means in scattered groups, in droves, or in varying states, is the broken plural of.
شتى
Now this can have two meanings. One, that each man will present himself in his own individual capacity. Families, groups, parties, nations, all will scatter away. And two, that the people who during thousands and thousands of years had died at different places will be rising from different corners of the earth and proceeding in groups. The first
ل
is what we call,
لام التعليل
meaning the justifying lamb. It justifies what come before by what comes next. It only occurs before verbs in the subjunctive.
يروا
Is the verb,
أرى
meaning to show, in the subjunctive passive in the third plural masculine person. Now this verb belongs to the basic form of verbs, and it is a defective verb, which consists of two strong radicals and a final weak radical. And also it is a hamzated verb, meaning a verb with hamza as a radical.
أعمالهم.
Meaning their deeds
أعمال.
is the broken plural of
عمل.
a deed, and the last
هم.
is the possessive pronoun their for plural masculine. Now this can also have two meanings. One, that they are shown their deeds, that is, each one will be told what he did in the world. Or two, that they are shown the rewards of their deeds. Now the declension of these verses are the adverbial of time
يومئذ.
is an idafa construction itself, and it is in apposition with the previous.
يومئذ. يصدر.
Is a verb in the present tense,
الناس.
is its subject,
أشتات.
is a circumstantial. It describes the circumstances or state of the subject or object of an action in the main clause at the time of that action. The preposition
لي.
is the justifying lam,
يروا.
is a verb in the subjunctive passive because of
لي.
with its substitute of the subject
أعمالهم.
is its object. And now the last two verses are فَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Meaning, so whoever does an atom's weight of good sees it, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil sees it.
من.
Whoever is an indefinite pronoun that introduces a conditional clause, and it requires that the verb following should be the jussive mood. The result clause in the indefinite conditional sentence is valid with the fulfillment of any number of possible conditions. Thus, in the indefinite condition sentence, whoever does an atom's weight of good sees it, the result clause sees it is valid whoever does an atom's weight of evil, which implies the possible conditions if you lie, if you insult, if you commit a crime, and so on.
يعمل.
Is the verb
عمل.
meaning to do in the jussive mood in the third singular masculine person. Now this verb belongs to the basic strong form of verbs, which all its radicals are strong or sound.
مثقال.
Meaning the weight of, and
ذرة.
meaning an atom,
خيرا.
and
شرا.
is the good and the bad or the evil.
يره.
Is the verb
رأى.
meaning to see in the jussive mood in the third singular masculine person. Now this verb belongs to the basic form of verbs, and it is a defective verb which consists of two strong radicals and a final weak radical. And also it is a hamzated verb, meaning a verb with hamza as a radical. A simple and straightforward meaning of this statement, and it is right and correct, is that not an atom's weight of good or evil done by a person will have been left unrecorded in his conduct book, and he will see it in any case. But if seeing is taken to imply seeing its reward and punishment, it will be wrong to take it in the meaning that in the hereafter every person will be rewarded for his most minor offense, and no one will be left unrewarded for a good and unpunished for an evil done by him. Now the declension of these verses are
ف.
is a conjunction that introduces the verse The conditional indefinite pronoun
من
is a subject in a nominal sentence,
يعمل
is a verb in the jussive mood because of,
من
with a hidden subject,
مثقال
is its object, and it is a governing term in idafa construction with
ذرة
as its genitive term,
خيرا
is an accusative of specification. The accusative of specification in a noun, in the adverbial accusative used to specify or to restrict the meaning of verbs and to a lesser extent nouns or adjective. The sense is with respect to, in regard to, in terms to, or as concerns, and it is always a grammatically indefinite noun.
يره
Is a verb in the jussive mood with its object and with a hidden subject. And the verbal sentence is the main clause which contains the expected consequence of the condition if fulfilled. And the two verbal sentences are the predicate of the nominal sentence. The last verse is linked with the previous verse by
و